Today, we are saying that we are now going to emerge as a global power. If there is one person whom we have to name, that somebody who has laid the foundation for that, that is Manmohan Singh, and that has come from this.
He once famously said, I honestly believe the history will be kinder to me than the contemporary media. Do you think the media was unfair to him?
Today, when he is at age of 92 has gone, I think people will go back and see what are the changes he has done. They look at his deeds because he spoke very little.
India's finest economist, the man who believed in the market economy, the man who ignited India's growth engine, Dr. Manmohan Singh, has passed away at the age of 92 in AIIMS Hospital, Delhi. Joining me to discuss the legacy and leadership of Dr. Manmohan Singh is our editor-in-chief, Mr. Srinivasan, sir. Wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, hey.
As tributes pour in for India's two-time Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, Prime Minister Modi himself has called him the most distinguished leader and a statesman India has ever had. If you really look at his life in retrospect, you seem to have a lot of criticism from the opposition and the media, particularly during the handling of the corruption scandal that popped up in UPA too. In fact, LK Advani has called him a weak leader, and he was also called as the accidental Prime Minister. Was he really a weak leader? Was he an accidental Prime Minister?
Look, I won't agree completely with what Mr. Advani said. Advani also had a certain purpose. That is to break the image and whatever that was forming. And these are the political tactics which is often done. If you know that for a long time Rahul was being called as Pappu. So these things do happen in politics. But if you were to judge Manmohan Singh, what are the kind of work he has done as a finance minister and as a prime minister, then I think he is one of the most outstanding prime ministers India ever had. And as a finance minister, he has really opened up the economy in 1991. He brought in a lot of changes. Of course, he was being supervised and guided politically by his boss, Narasimha Rao. And under his leadership, he did all those things. And then later, as a prime minister, he continued his streak. Now, this criticism that he is weak, that probably came out of several issues that happened during that time. One was he came under tremendous pressure during the nuclear deal that happened in his second term. The left parties specifically were completely against such a deal because they thought India was tilting towards the West. And India had traditional relations with Russia and the Eastern Bloc. So the problem there was that it was a coalition government, and he had to do a very fine, he had to do a tightrope walk. And I think he did it marvelously because that one agreement, 123 agreement, which is called as 123 agreement, which is a nuclear agreement, that led to India signing missile technology control regime, MTCR, which actually gave India access to a lot of technology from America and West. Also, we got nuclear power plants larger in capacity. And today I was just speaking to a colleague of mine, and he was saying that if today we are saying that we are now going to emerge as a global power, I mean, after all, where does this power come from? From how powerful your economy is. If there is one person whom we have to name, that somebody who has laid the foundation for that, and that is Manmohan Singh, and that has come from this particular agreement.
That's right.
And he totally, he was a different man when he was pushing that. So to say that he was a weak PM, well, I think it's not completely true. But you see, he was a consensus builder. He would give a patient hearing. As a personality, he was very mild. He would speak very softly. He's a perfect gentleman. And in the rough and tumble of politics, he could be misunderstood. And while he was a very good economist, he's a technocrat prime minister India ever had, let's say. So let us look at the circumstances in which he became the prime minister. Nobody thought he would suddenly become a prime minister. He was foisted, hoisted to that seat, hot seat probably. I mean, why did it happen? Suddenly Sonia Gandhi, who could have been the prime minister, refused to take that position and nominated him. And I mean, one could look at what could be her motivations behind naming Manmohan Singh as a prime minister. Why did she choose a technocrat, someone who was a finance minister in earlier regime, did a splendid job. But could he have handled politics of this diverse nation?
Better.
I mean, those are the questions. Probably she did it because he could be a prime minister and not be politically, such a threat. Probably that could have been one calculation, and it's. I mean, I perfectly think that could have been the calculation, that he won't be, such a problem politically. So there was always a suspicion that when it comes to politics, somebody else was doing the backseat driving, and that's where perhaps politically Advani chose to constantly attack him as the weakest prime minister India ever had.
As you rightly said, for Manmohan Singh, sort of laid the foundations for India's economy, right? India is currently the fifth largest economy, and it is expected to be the third largest economy in the years to come. But if you really see, the Manmohan Singh's reforms kind of largely inspired by what has happened in South Korea, and for decades back, and what's been called the miracle of the Han, right? Dr. Singh's vision, sort of during the 90s, the economic reforms was some kind of an inspiration from the miracle of the Han in South Korea. But India seems to have fallen short today. Where do you think we went wrong?
Well, I don't think it's a fair comparison. South Korea is a pretty homogeneous country, and India large, diverse. Okay, we have a democracy, which is very noisy, as I've been saying it, and it has its own fallouts. You have to deal with an opposition. Imagine you were a part of a coalition government where your partners are pulling in various directions, and when it came to economy, obviously some of them are stoutly opposed to him. So he had a very difficult time when the reforms started. And imagine when India went into its economic reforms in 1991, we were having only 2 weeks worth foreign exchange. We had to actually pledge our gold to raise forex. So we were in quite a pitiable situation. We had borrowed from IMF. So the economy was in real doldrums. And that time, in his first budget speech, Manmohan Singh did say two things, which I think is very important. One is he quoted Victor Hugo and said, an idea whose time has come, no power on earth can stop. So that's one. And second thing he said was, look, it will propel us to become a global economic power. I mean, both these statements, I was there in the parliament, I heard that speech. It looked a bit odd that, look, here is a crisis, we are just trying to come out of a crisis, we are in a severe, crisis. We don't know whether we'll be able to fund our own, imports.
Yeah.
When we are in such a precarious situation, he is saying such things, but he was so sincere. Even that time, it didn't look like bravado. It looked like somebody who had, who can guide this, and he really did that. So the credit should be given to him. And it wasn't just one, we were covering, I was there as a reporter during those days covering the finance ministry as a beat and other economic reforms. He opened up many things. For instance, let me tell you what I recall from my memory. One, of course, the, MRTP, which was abolished, Monopoly Restrictive Trade Practices Act, which actually you would be surprised to learn that, suppose there is a tire company which is manufacturing 10,000 tires. The license permit Raj is so dominant that if you made one more extra tire, you could be punished for that. You won't be rewarded for increasing your productivity. Rather, you would be punished for exceeding the license. That's the kind of a regime we had. And we were all speculating on the limits which he may raise. But he completely abolished it, limitless. And then he opened up the external policy. External finance was opened up. The banking sector was opened up. The trade policy was reformed. And industrial policy. The industrial policy resolution was changed. So, it's a massive change that a regime which had been running for previous decades on a Nehruvian socialist pattern to completely turn it around and take a different direction, and the country of this size, and building a political consensus, which was actually largely Narasimha Rao's helping him behind the job, and then carrying it on. I think he did a tough job, and very quietly, very unassumingly, and he he did it all with a lot of quiet firmness. So I think only in the later years, when he was, if he was economically, he is articulate, he could convey his ideas because he is a economist himself. So the business ideas, all that he could do, but he wasn't politically savvy. I mean, he wasn't a great public speaker or like you have Modi now, who actually is he's superbly articulate, and especially when he sees a crowd in front of him, he is electrified. He wasn't such a mass leader, so he wasn't in fact a politician in that sense. He was evolving to that position. So I think he had these shortcomings. But when India needed somebody at that point of time, I think he was rather than saying he was an accidental prime minister, I would say that he was a prime minister at a right time when India actually required such a man at the helm, who actually sat down to reform this country, to take it to a different direction. So therefore, I think comparison with South Korea and other economies also is not very wise, because each country must develop its own model of development. You cannot just replicate it. Yeah, you can draw inspiration. You can see attempts are made. Should India be an export-led economy? So, but our industry wasn't ready. We didn't have the capacities. Our infrastructure was poor. So there are lots of such shortcomings. So it is easy to compare these issues, but then it's far more complex.
You've been in the industry for almost 4 decades now. You also said you covered the parliament when Dr. Singh was the finance minister. He once famously said in a press conference, "I honestly believe that the history will be kinder to me than the contemporary media." Do you think the media was unfair to him?
Well, ultimately, everybody comes down to blame media. It's very easy. After all, media constantly is supposed to show mirror, but of course, nowadays media is also going beyond that. Is actually taking sides, because we are in a polarized environment. Probably he was talking about media. I think in the same breath he also spoke about the opposition, that they are unkind to him.
Absolutely.
I think that he said because there's a certain context. He was under severe pressure then. The backseat driving by Sonia Gandhi was the kind of perception which is very strong then, and he was trying to fight that. So therefore, I think in his last press conference, he kind of, in a very introspective mood, he barely speaks. So that became a very powerful statement. It in a way reflected, the criticism, what he received. He was trying to answer that by saying the statement. I think that statement is really stuck. Mm-hmm. And today, when he is at age of 92, he has gone, I think people will now remember him and probably think that when he said that history probably would judge him in a better manner, I think people will go back and see what are the changes he has done. They look at his deeds because he spoke very little.
Apart from liberalization, Dr. Manmohan Singh is also the brainchild of some of the finest policies, including Manrega, the Aadhaar and the UPI. But you seem to have the BJP claiming a lot of credits for these policies. How do you see? Do you think Manmohan Singh would have been remembered as a better politician if it would have been, if you would have been able to shrug off his very own, bureaucratic personality?
Well, you're packing in a lot of questions here. Let me take one by one. If you are asking whether he could have been a non-bureaucratic prime minister, it's a difficult question to answer. One really don't know. But yes, you can't say that he wasn't getting he wasn't getting politically savvy. He wasn't, but he was trying to. For instance, many people were surprised that when the 1-2-3 agreement happened, mm-hmm. he actually tried to, he could manage and he could forge a kind of an alliance with Mulayam Singh Yadav, who wasn't in a great terms at time with Sonia Gandhi. That's one thing. So it was a surprise that he could actually do that. The other thing is, yes, he was a bit scared probably because in 1999, I think, when he contested Delhi parliament election as a by-election, he lost. So it was thought that, the politicians, Congress politicians, not opposition, within party, people had conspired to defeat him, so that he doesn't come up. I think after that he never got into a straight contest. He came through Rajya Sabha. He never came through
That's
Lok
right,
Sabha after that. So I think politically how to face these charges, how to make his own constancy, those are difficult things for him because he's not been a career politician. So I think we need to judge him from that angle. But as far as what changes he brought in, like you asked a question about things like not just economic changes, which actually made people middle class really celebrate him. He did also a lot of things for the poor. Manriga, as you mentioned, that's an important decision. When you open up an economy, and as he did, when the privatization began to happen, the word privatization wasn't used during his period. It was called as private participation. They gradually opened up. There was a lack of safety net. What happens to people, those who lose jobs? While the economic reforms are also creating jobs, which is one part of the story, the other part of the story is that people are losing jobs also. And there wasn't any safety net. Manriga actually helped. It also empowered women. It gave them a certain empowerment in the villages that they could earn on their own, and they could take decisions, small financial decisions within their family, in their household. And he did that. He was a principal, he supported Aadhaar. If Aadhaar today it's a basic identity for everything, isn't it? And on the top of it was UPI. What is that you see, where you can do
Google
transactions.
pays the world,
Yeah, all those things, financial transaction you're able to do. It came because of that. So during that period, he took those decisions. And then one bigger thing, philosophically what he did, and which he's not alone, Narasimha Rao should be given equal credit. These two gentlemen are responsible for changing the mindset of people of India. Before that, before the economic reforms, being rich was considered sin. People won't say, in fact, many people won't even use the word as capitalist because it was considered very bad. Somebody making money wasn't seen very good. He actually, helped people break that thinking. Middle class suddenly became very aspirational. They wanted to send their children abroad. The parents who used to think that, look, I should save, their children, next generation, actually begin to nurse their own dreams. Many people didn't want to go for government jobs. 9-to-5 job become,
posh.
no, which was earlier that there should be a government job. If somebody wants to, seen good in life, he should have a government job. It could be a bank job. You could be a clerk in a bank, but that was considered very prestigious in the 80s.
Okay.
So when the economy was opened up in 90s onwards, people started looking at new opportunities and new jobs, new kind of things. So they begin to celebrate that. The aspirations grew earlier. When the imports were restricted, tariffs were very high. Import tariffs are really high. When the tariff reforms hadn't happened, a lot of smuggling happening. People would be looking up for their friends to come from abroad to get little cheap things in life, little pleasures like scents and shoes and Wrangler jeans, those kind of things. But then when he opened up, everything was available. People had choice. Before the arrival of Maruti 800, there was no other, there was no choice. There was only Ambassador or Fiat. But then when the reforms happened, a lot of other choices. The automobile sector opened up, the infrastructure things happened, the airports opened up, the aviation changed, the scenario all over changed. All these things happened, and the result of that, what you're seeing now after 2-3 decades, as more and more aspirations grow. But it wasn't as if it has happened, it was all one track. It was all growth and growth. Just another thing I would like to point out here, that during those periods in 80s, India's growth rate would be at the most 5%, single digit. Hardly we ever imagined that we can grow into double digits. So in fact, that made one economist even quote Raj Krishna, who said, who devised the term Hindu rate of growth. We could break that. In fact, the economy during Manmohan period averaged about 7%. In fact, there was a period when he could even do double digits. So those kind of things happened during that period. But on the other hand, the inequalities have also increased. The disparities also increased. The rich have become richer. The poor has become poorer. If you have to look at Gini coefficient, it's actually quite distorted. Those things have certainly happened. But the poverty levels have come down. You know, before reform, 60% of India was poor. Now it has come down. During Modi's regime, now is claiming about absolute poverty, 13 to 14%. And these are achievements. These have come over a long period of time, and that's very crucial for India. And those are the things I think people look into. The other thing is education. You know, there are a lot need to be improved. One thing you pointed about Korea's education levels are pretty high, which we couldn't give. But you know, it has taken time. Not all the things have happened together, but that has taken time. But that's happening now. Health, basically social indicators, you know, longevity. So those things are actually taking time to happen.
Thank you very much, sir. Wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.